Was it worth it to reopen when we did? Join us as we ask economists, business owners, and local leaders about whether the phased reopening in June paid off.
Hello, and welcome to our program, Southwest Florida Open for Business, a coronavirus town hall. I'm Mark Bickel, Audience Development Director at the News Press and Naples Daily News.
And I'm Julie Glenn, News Director at WGCU News. This hour, we're looking at the financial impact of the coronavirus shutdown and the phased reopening of businesses here in Southwest Florida. We're broadcasting live on WGCU TV, radio, and Facebook, and streaming on the News Press and Naples Daily News websites. We'll follow this broadcast with a virtual town hall online via Facebook Live. Send us questions ahead of time at wgcu.org/SWFL.
During this program, we also want to hear from you through real-time polling. To participate with your phone, download Mentimeter app or just go online, www.menti.com, that's Menti, MENTI.com, and use the code 544602.
Our first question of the night is this: do you think that Florida reopened too early, too late, or right on time? Go to Menti.com to give us your answer to that question. Do you think Florida reopened too early, too late, or right on time?
But before we get down to business, Julie, let's take a trip back in time to look at how COVID numbers fluctuated throughout the shutting down and the reopening of the state's economy.
Well, the first shelter-in-place order happened on March 17th. Bars and nightclubs closed. Back then, we just had a little under 200 cases. On March 30th, the governor issued the stay-at-home order for South Florida when the state had just over 600 cumulative cases. Shortly thereafter, on April 1st, that order went statewide when the number of cases jumped to nearly 7,000 cumulative cases. Then we started reopening about a month and a half later on May 18th. Phase 1 began as the state reached more than 44,000 cases of coronavirus. On June 3rd, with almost 60,000 cases, the governor ordered Phase 2 reopening to 50% capacity in restaurants and dining rooms and businesses. But after spiking to almost 123,000 cases statewide, on June 26th, bars were ordered to be closed again. And then fast forward to today. In just the last 24 hours, as of 11 a.m. on July 14th, state officials reported another 9,194 new cases, bringing the total number of cases up to 291,629. The death toll stands at 4,409. Yesterday, 132 people died from COVID in the state of Florida, and that is a new record for the number of deaths in one day.
After being closed due to a state mandate in late March, restaurant owners first grappled with whether it was worth it to remain open for only carry-out and delivery. One local restaurateur had just opened his 4th location before having to shut down. The phased reopening brought tough decisions and little guidance.
When Todd Brooks planned the opening of the 4th location of Brooks Burgers, he set the date for November 2019, enough time to get up and running before high season in 2020. Just under halfway through that tourist season, the pandemic hit and everything changed. Brooks had to pivot and pivot hard.
5% of our business was to-go food, and then all of a sudden 100% of it was to-go food. So we had to buy new packaging.
That meant more than just buying more to-go packaging.
We do a really thick burger, so what happens is, the carryover cooking, somebody calls up and says, I want a medium burger. By the time I get home, it's well done. We had to retrain cooks and say, look, you got to undercook a little bit, so that it's still good when they get home.
Within weeks, another litany of decisions had to be made. The phased reopening presented the option of opening dining rooms to 25% and then 50%. With little direction from the Department of Health or the state's licensing body, the Department of Business and Professional Regulation, restaurants knew only that they could open at limited capacity. How to do so safely was only mandated to social distancing and the suggestion of wearing masks.
Social media was brutal. You go onto local websites and stuff, and people were beating up restaurants for trying to open. People were praising restaurants for doing certain things, and then other restaurants were getting beaten up because they weren't wearing a mask or they weren't wearing gloves, but then they told you not to wear gloves, but then they told you to wear gloves.
That was good.
Brooks says at his restaurants he's had employees wearing masks since day one. He's constantly researching the best ways to keep his employees and customers safe.
What we found is that we have to go look for it and find it. It doesn't come directly to me.
Brooks says he's been sanitizing everything between customers, menus, condiments, door handles. If an employee tests positive for coronavirus, they're immediately sent home. Everything is sanitized and all employees are also tested. He's also checking employees' temperatures, but he's not sure how effective that is. He says this vaporizing machine sanitizes everything with an eco-friendly hydrogen peroxide mist. He fogs the restaurant about once a week. Brooks says it kills mold, viruses, bacteria, pretty much everything, and it's food safe. Brooks says if he could reopen to 100% tomorrow and do so safely, he'd jump at the chance, if for no other reason, to get his restaurant family back together again.
The restaurant business is like family. So when everybody came back, it felt good that people were back and you're seeing the same faces. And, you know, I mean, I've been in it for 35 years now. And I remember when I was like 16, the chef I worked for, I told him I was taking off Thanksgiving, and he said, "For what?" And I said, "To be with my family." And he said, "No, this is your family." And he was right.
Restaurant owners and employees were more than gut punched by the closure and then the gradual reopening of dining establishments. Mark talked with Jay Johnson, chairman for the Lee County chapter of the Florida Restaurant and Lodging Association and the owner of Bubba's Roadhouse and Saloon in Cape Coral, about how restaurants, the backbone of small business in Southwest Florida, are coping.
Hi, Jay.
Good morning, Mark.
Thanks for joining Town Hall on Small Business.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
So, Jay, many people would agree that the small business backbone in Southwest Florida is the restaurant industry. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being there is no coronavirus, everything's perfect, and 1 being it's as bad as it can get, what number would you give the local restaurant industry as we enter month 4 of this pandemic, and why?
Well, right now I'd say we're probably at 5, and the reason I say 5 is we're at 50% of occupancy of our buildings. I think there's some restaurants that are doing better than others. There are some restaurants out there that have a better setup for takeout and to go, some of your fast food and drive-through. But I think the sit-down business is really at a 5 right now. We have half of what we can do, half of our capacity, and right now not all of our guests are comfortable coming out, which is okay. We want them to be comfortable and to come out when they're ready.
At this point, is there any stats about restaurants that have permanently closed here in Southwest Florida?
Not on a permanent basis. I've been seeing the numbers as far as restaurants that are closing. There seems to be 1 or 2 a week that are closing. I think that it's going to get worse before it gets better. I think going into what's typically our slowest month of the year, which is September, is going to be even tougher this year because we didn't have season to put money away to prepare for it. So I'm real nervous about what's going to happen with the industry. As far as nationally, the stats seem to be 10 to 15% expected to close. But again, it's really tough to guess on those numbers. You don't know what kind of owners you have. You have people that will stick it out. We're an industry of surviving. You know, we survived hurricanes. We've survived blue-green algae. And as an industry, we'll survive COVID, but there will be some casualties along the way, and hopefully those are minimal.
Yeah, I love the comparison to hurricanes and the red tide. And obviously this is out there by itself. It's so unusual, nothing we've ever experienced. So what kind of help is out there for a small business restaurant owner as far as federal, state, or local assistance? What is existing right now that can help these people?
Well, I think on all 3 levels, there's something out there. There's on the federal level, there's the PPP, which is the Payroll Protection Plan. And that's out there. That was extended recently, so the restaurants that haven't received it yet still have the opportunity to go out and apply for it. There's also the SBA loans and the EIDL, the Economic Injury to Disaster loans. Those are out there that people still have the opportunity to go apply for. I think in addition, on the state level, there was some state money that was out there. However, that's been exhausted. And locally here in Lee County, we have the Lee County CARES Act, which is going on its 2nd phase starting today, which is going to give $5,000, a $5,000 grant to any business that rehires someone that hasn't been working since the start of COVID. Now, there are some rules and regulations with that program, but I think overall It's a good program, and Lee County is bending over backwards to try to put money into small business in order to make small business survive this.
So if you had to boil it down right now, what is the number one need or challenge if you're a restaurant owner in Lee County in Southwest Florida?
There's so many challenges right now. I don't know that we can put just one. Some of the issues that we have include the supply chain. It's very difficult to get our product. It's very difficult to get some meats, and things that we can get are coming in at an inflated price. And as a business owner, this is the wrong time for me to increase my prices to the consumer. The consumer doesn't have the money, and it doesn't work as a business owner to do that. You're going to put yourself out of business. I think the other challenges that are there include just trying to stay pace with what the consumer wants. And I think we're going to get into that discussion as you talk about the need for cleanliness, sanitation, and being aware of keeping the customer safe. Those are all things that as an industry we've always done, but I think it's becoming even more prevalent as we go through the COVID crisis.
Now, we can't have this conversation without bringing up face masks. That's been dominating the headlines in the news press and the Naples Daily News the last couple of weeks. I'm guessing there isn't any data yet to show if a restaurant is doing better or worse based on its face mask wearing policies for staff and customers. But anecdotally, what are you seeing, hearing about the face mask issue?
I think face masks have become a very personal issue. I think it's an issue that people have a very hard line on whether they support them or don't. And as a restaurateur, our job is to protect the public. And as an industry, from the Florida Restaurant and Lodging Association in Tallahassee all the way down, we're asking all of our members to wear face masks and to have their staff in masks, because right now it is the most prudent thing to do. And, we talk about being business people, but, first and foremost, we're human. We're part of the greater group of people, and it's our job to protect others. So as an industry, we're trying to portray and want to be at the front line of that and wearing masks.
Jay, you've been great. I really appreciate your time for joining the town hall, and good luck going forward.
Well, thank you very much, and I appreciate again you having me on.
So Julie, let's have a look at the results to our first poll question.
The question we asked was, do you think Florida reopened too early, too late, or right on time? 82% feel like we opened the state too early, 8% or 5% say too late, and 13% say on time. So a pretty serious majority saying that we reopened a little bit too early.
Yeah, and I wonder what that would have been a month ago, or even
just a week ago.
Yeah,
or even a couple days.
It's changed a lot.
It really has.
While restaurants represent an enormous segment of business in Southwest Florida, retailers have also borne significant losses as malls closed, traffic disappeared, and the economy tanked, not just locally, but nationally.
That brings us to our next poll question. Have you done more online shopping since the coronavirus outbreak? To participate with your phone, download the Mentimeter app, or just go to www.menti.com, MENTI.com, and use the code 544602.
Now, let's meet one multi-generation jewelry store which is finding out how technology, service, and patience can get them through this.
When Coconut Point Mall in Estero closed at the beginning of the pandemic, Blue Diamond Jewelers had to close too. The third and fourth generation of the family business, which began in Germany years ago, faced an uncertain future, but it wasn't long before customers started venturing out, driving by to look in the windows, and upon reopening, wandered into the store once again.
Little by little, people are coming back. They want to look at beautiful things, whether it's clothing, jewelry, soap stores. I mean, we have everything here.
Owner Nicole Mastmeyer says while a lot of retail moved online, jewelry saw only a moderate bump.
With our industry, people want to see proportion and quality. And sometimes online pictures don't really present the piece as clearly as you can with seeing it with your own eyes. So with jewelry, people do want to touch and feel it.
But that doesn't mean technology isn't part of these ladies' business.
My daughter just did a Zoom meeting with a client and was able to present the product, give the details, show the piece all through a computer, which was pretty amazing for my generation.
Alexis, the fourth generation in the family business, is also versed in the old school art of stringing pearls.
This is something I was taught when I was 13 years old by my father.
We do on-site pearl stringing because pearl strand does need to be maintained. New silk has to be put through all the pearls and hand knotted because it does wear over time.
A lot of our customers, they'll come in for restringing when their pearls loosen with wear over time.
Maintenance of existing jewelry, cleaning, and service has become a focus as people look in their old jewelry boxes for what treasures lie within.
Also, there's an upsurge in gold prices, and it might also continue to go up. So people are taking care of their pieces currently.
All markets have been on a roller coaster ride: equities, gold, bonds, and businesses in general. Economists like the dean of FGCU's Lutgert School of Business have been watching and analyzing. Dr. Christopher Westley has been specifically studying the Southwest Florida economy throughout this pandemic by surveying business owners and principals. I was able to talk with him about his findings recently. The first question I'd like to ask you is about the study that you've been conducting on the local economy being affected by the coronavirus. When did it first occur to you to start looking into this?
Well, I think it first started to occur to me when I was driving around the regional economy with my jaw drop as businesses were closing, and we weren't really sure what was going on or what the effect was. And when I see a business shut down, my first thought is, well, how many people are now not working? How many people are losing their income? What kind of stresses does that put them under? And what are the ramifications of that? And can you multiply that by thousands of businesses that were affected by the lockdown? It becomes to be pretty significant. And I received a call from a colleague of mine at the Lee County Economic Development Organization, John Talmadge, who was having the same reaction. And he asked me, he told me, we need to do a coronavirus economic impact study, which is ongoing. And so what we did was we put together a report, a survey of businesses, and it came around the end of March. And we went ahead and developed a baseline of economic conditions that people were reporting at that time, with the intention then of updating it on a monthly basis. And that's what we've been doing at the end of April, the end of May, and the end of June.
Were you looking at specifically how many people were laid off, how many people were furloughed? Are you looking mainly at how it's impacted the employees?
Well, we're looking at all those things. We're looking at what just how businesses were surviving, what they were seeing. And the good thing about this study was it kind of put numbers to what we were witnessing initially. So as I recall, initially 80% of the businesses that responded were reporting that their demand had fallen by more than 50%. With similar numbers with respect to sales revenues. And so it put numbers to what we were seeing out there. How many people, how they were surviving, how many were having employees work at home, how many of them were having to furlough employees. And then over time, we've been looking at it in terms of how many of those employees have come back, how many of your employees are working as many hours now than they were before this happened. Like, how close are you back to where you were at that point in time? And what we're seeing really is that things were pretty bleak at the end of March. By the end of April, they hadn't improved at all. They stayed at that level. When we began to open up again in May, we started to see some improvement, but not a lot. We're opened up more in the month of June, and we just got the June survey numbers in a couple of days ago, and we see more improvement, but we're still far from anything what anyone would call a recovery.
So when you look at the way that things have been impacted by coronavirus here in Southwest Florida, would you say that it's comparable to a recession or a natural disaster, or how would you compare it?
As a disaster, it's very comparable to a recession. I mean, I think the economy was not in a terribly strong shape before then. The discussion we were having was that how close are we to the next recession? We knew a recession was coming. the debate was, will it happen sooner or later? Will it happen before the election, or will it happen after the election? But there was a sense that the national economy, and especially the regional economy, was growing at an unsustainable rate, and that it couldn't last. A correction was coming, and so the coronavirus is sort of what economists sometimes call a black swan event, where something unanticipated happens that brings about a significant adjustment, and that's where we are right now.
So you did this study, and that is asking the CEOs and managers and owners about what their feelings are about the bleakness, which is bleak. Is there something to compare that to in the way of actual hard numbers of receipts, sales numbers, hotel occupancy, things like that?
Those numbers have been coming in slowly. What we were just getting was an instant snapshot at that time. And those numbers end up coming in, sometimes a month, sometimes 6 months later. But some of those numbers did start to come in. I mean, the unemployment numbers went to double digits, as we know, in the region. Sales revenue and taxable sales numbers for the counties fell significantly, and also across the state. A number that comes to mind for the state was that tax revenues fell by $900 million for the month of April, which is significant. And then they fell 790 million for the month of May. It's going to continue to be like that until until the recovery comes.
Is there any way to anticipate when this recovery may happen? I mean, obviously we got to deal with spiking numbers, which we're seeing now after we've started the phased reopening.
It's hard to say, because what's really hindering the recovery for our region is this uncertainty. I mean, if numbers spike, what will be the policy response? Will more businesses be told that they cannot open anymore? When that happens, there's no wealth being created at those times. No one's earning income, and that just prolongs the correction process.
Have you seen the economy come back much at all since we've started the phased reopening? And is it as much as people, I mean, obviously everybody hoped for it to do really well, but is it a disappointing return?
It's coming back, but it's not very strong. I mean, when you've fallen as low as we did during that time period, we're seeing some improvement, but I mean, it's not like roaring back by any means whatsoever. It might still do that. There's a lot of stimulus money. In fact, a record amount of stimulus money has been allocated, and a lot of those funds have not yet had their full effect. And so that could be the case between now and the end of the year, that money will bring about a significant recovery. But right now, I'd say it's a fairly weak and tepid recovery that we're seeing right now.
There is something to be said, though, for the difference between large and small businesses. Have you noted a difference in the way that they've reacted to the COVID economic crisis? Smaller ones can be a little bit more agile, more nimble, able to pivot and refocus, while large multi-location businesses may have a harder time being responsive to changes in customer needs in a given micro economy. Have you seen that bearing out in your survey results?
Actually, we divided up our survey results by small business and large businesses, and it's very interesting to see the differences. But actually, the larger businesses are more likely to be able to weather this than the smaller ones, because they have more resources that they can get through this. The smaller businesses, I guess they might be more nimble and can adjust in some ways, but if they don't have the resources to be able to stick out a significant reduction in demand until it comes back, they'll probably end up having to shut down at some point. And the smaller businesses are more likely to be in that situation than the large ones, although some large ones, as we know, have struggled too.
Seen a lot of big chains going out of business, retail and restaurant, which I found kind of interesting. I was a little surprised to see that they didn't have the resources to weather it, or maybe didn't want to make the changes, or.
Well, that's my point about the interest rates being so low. The incentives to save, to be prepared for an event like this, just weren't there for the last 10 years.
I wouldn't even have thought to put that together, but then I'm not the economist. Right? So I guess the last question I want to end on, and I know it's kind of a bit of a judgment call, was it worth it to do phased reopening in June?
People are going to debate this on and on and on, and I'm not going to take a side on that. It seems like on one side you have a bias towards, respecting the individual's right to deal with problems on their own, and if you have that bias, there will probably be some after effects that people dislike. But in the same way, the other bias is to use coercion to force people to comply, and that also has very negative effects as well in the economy. So it's hard to say. There's studies that show that the lockdowns didn't really have an effect on curtailing the spread of the coronavirus. Personally, if moving forward, I'd like to see a situation where we can identify and protect the vulnerable without committing economic hara-kiri, without shutting everything down.
Thank you so much, Dr. Christopher Westley. It's so great talking with you. Every time I get a chance, I always learn something.
Well, I enjoy talking to you, Julie. Good to see you.
All right, good to see you. So now let's see where people went shopping while they were on lockdown with the answer to our second poll question.
And that question, Julie, was, have you done more online shopping since the coronavirus outbreak?
Yes.
Yeah, I would say yes with an exclamation point. That's a huge difference between yeses and nos, and not surprising because the shopping zone in my house is the couch.
Yeah. I got to say, honestly, I've been doing more online shopping, and then the joy of grocery store shopping when it shows up at your doorstep. So that's something I might not give up when things go back to normal eventually. But that takes us to our next poll question, which is about a business's policy on mask wearing for employees and customers. Can that influence your decision to shop there in person? Yes or no? To participate with your phone, use the Mentimeter app or go online to www.menti.com and use the code 544602.
Leaders for regional chambers of commerce have become even more vital during the pandemic, providing resources, information about relief packages, and offering virtual educational opportunities. Julie spoke with Colleen DePasquale, President and CEO of the Greater Fort Myers Chamber of Commerce, and Terry Ashley. She's the Executive Director of the Charlotte County Chamber of Commerce, about the perspectives and how small business can make it through this.
I want to start by asking both of you, it almost seems like it would be essential to have some hospitality background to be part of a chamber in Southwest Florida. I mean, how much would you estimate what percentage would you estimate is the membership of the chamber in the hospitality world?
Well, when you look at hospitality, it's not just hotels, it's when you look at hospitality, everybody touches a guest in some way. They touch a visitor, whether they sell tires, because, we have so many people that come down here that have needs for everything from a tire to retail to food and beverage and the hotel. So in our mind, and as I sit on the Lee County Tourist Development Council, we realize the economic impact of our visitors. And it isn't just in hotel stays and bed tax. It goes beyond that. I don't know what the percentage would be, but I would say most of our members, there probably isn't one of them in some way that doesn't touch a visitor.
Yeah, Terry, is that also the case in Charlotte County?
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that. Us being, tourism-based, snowbird-based, part-time resident-based, we touch everyone. And I was trying to think, a lot of our service industries, we have people coming in looking for a dentist. Where can we go for a dentist while we're here? Or they need to have a document created by an attorney. So just about everyone, I think, is touched by your overall base. And it has been hit very hard, as everyone knows, in March. The night before everything happened, we were all at a spring training game. And then the next day, that was it. So it was like everything just came to a screeching halt.
Is it possible at this point to even estimate how much businesses have been impacted by these closures? Can we quantify that at this point, or are we still have to wait and see?
I think we're still at a wait and see, because it's dependent on a lot of the industries. A lot of the industries, a lot of the big boxes are doing very well. A lot of larger businesses are doing okay. Those that could stay open and pick up where other people couldn't go, they've done okay. And I don't know, people forget that chambers are small businesses. We are a small business. So we can look at the data from other chambers. We can look at the data from our professional organizations, and you get anything from, well, we're doing a little bit better to, we're reducing our budget by 50 or 60%. It just depends. It's just so dependent still. And with everything this week, we're not finished yet. So it literally is a day by day, and we've been looking at our budget day by day.
Colleen?
I think Lee County will come out with the stats. We're going to get the hotel stats and bed tax, reduction. March and April. March got hit halfway through, which was a big hit because that carries a lot of people. April, we'll get all those numbers. When it comes to, if we'd had this conversation 2 weeks ago, I think we would have been talking a little bit differently. But one of the things I am seeing is that the smaller entrepreneur, independently owned businesses, they've learned how to pivot. They've done it once, they've done it twice, and they're doing it again. It's those bigger some of those restaurants, the brands, they're not reopening, whether it's not worth it for them to open at 50% capacity or they're not here anymore, like they're done. So what's interesting though to watch are those entrepreneurs who are doing whatever it takes and pivoting and making it happen so they can keep their doors open, keep their teams on, their staff here. So I'm very impressed with this community and the work they're doing.
And the little guys.
The little guys, like, all these little restaurants and the 1 and 2 man shops, they know this is how they make their living. So that whatever they need to do to keep their doors open in the right way, they're all following, we believe that they're following the CDC guidelines. They're doing what they should be doing, all those things, but they're doing it because they don't want to close their doors. It is very expensive to shut down a restaurant and then try to get it back open again. And the time frame it takes, bring your team back at the food supply, that cost is exorbitant. So if you can continue to operate maybe at a lower level, then it's easier to keep running. So,
and if I could add, we've looked at the most recent numbers that we've gotten from the airport, from our big carrier, Allegiant. A lot of our developments that were in process are, they're still progressing. We have some major projects with the Economic Development Office. We work very closely with them. They're still progressing positively. The numbers were up at the airport for the previous month. So, they didn't take as big of a hit as they thought they were going to take. Plus, they have received funding also, both Allegiant and the airport. That will help in the long run. So everything's not negative. And with our big Sunseeker project, which you may have heard about, it's the huge project that Allegiant is developing right on Charlotte Harbor, and it came to a stop. It's delayed, but it's not completely done. We were told they have 6 of the mega cranes that the cranes might be removed because they rent those by the end of June. They're still there. So it's anticipated, Allegiant is going to come back and resume activity on their Sunseeker project as the flights are filling up and more people are comfortable with traveling. So,
I just think it's really interesting, the conversation about the little guys being able and nimble to pivot and how that kind of highlights, we've always heard it, and there's always the big slogan, the small independent entrepreneur business is the backbone of Main Street economy. And we always hear that, but seeing it in action has to be pretty impressive for both of you. And also your role as the chamber changing a little bit. And we talked a little bit before we started recording about how it used to be kind of, hey, let's network, let's get to know about who's who and what's where and who's opening and how things are going. Now you've kind of come into a position of being an advocate and a helper through a serious economic crisis for a lot of your member businesses.
Yeah, we've done everything that we could to spread the word for every one of our businesses, from sole proprietor up to the larger businesses on, here's how we're adapting. We'll deliver for you, whether it was office supplies, whether it were art supplies, whether it was a restaurant, we'll deliver it. What size order, doesn't matter, we'll deliver. So everybody has just done a phenomenal job of adapting. A few would try something for a week. If that didn't work, then then they did another about face and they would try something different. And we did everything that we could to promote them. We even offered a complimentary information membership for anybody who wanted to get on our communication lists, so we could keep everybody updated on what was available for them and how we could help them.
I want to ask both of you. Colleen, I'll start with you. Have you heard from any member businesses that have said that they are rebounding since the phased reopening started?
I would say, again, if we'd had this conversation 2 weeks ago, I would say that, people were starting to come back. We were seeing some strong numbers in different industries, but I am worried the last 2 weeks, with the high cases of COVID, I'm not sure that they would say that now. This community rebounds. We have been through so many things between Irma, red green algae, and now this. We'll get there. It's just going to take a little longer than I think anybody hopes or wants. Chambers are meant to connect. So that goes back from connecting people who need each other's resources or as a whole, connecting the community to the resources that we're sharing. What are we doing? Advocating. That is our true role now. Networking, we do have events, but the role, if you meet 3 people there that you can truly do business with, then it's much more successful than picking up 20 business cards and then trying to make cold calls at the end of the day. But this community, it's strong, and we have this, and we have to work together.
And you talked about businesses pivoting, but your chambers as businesses have also pivoted to an online repository of information.
Yes.
Here's who's open, here's who's partially open, and those kinds of details.
It started originally when we were getting all this information from SBA and the Florida Chamber and sharing it, how to apply for PPP, getting those grants, those loans, all those things and how that worked. That sense of urgency has kind of dissipated. So now we're sharing, okay, now you've gotten the PPP funds, how do you then apply to get it, so it's a grant versus having to repay those things. And then all the information on the school system, on health, we broke it into different depositories on our micro site so that you can go there. We also collected information on where to get resources. Do you know where to get masks? And everybody who sent us information, we just loaded it on there. It wasn't super pretty, but we're here. We're here to take care of our members and our businesses in the community, and whatever we need to be doing to do that, that's our role.
Well, I have to wrap things up, but it's been so great talking with you and kind of seeing how things are going. I mean, we're still in the wait and see mode, I think. Colleen DePasquale, President and CEO of Greater Fort Myers Chamber of Commerce, and Terry Ashley, Executive Director of the Charlotte County Chamber of Commerce. Thank you both for talking with me today.
Thank you.
Thank you
for having us.
One of the newest chambers of commerce in the area is coming up with innovative ways to support its members. The United Haitian American Chamber of Commerce of Southwest Florida has been throwing red carpet grand reopenings for its members as they reopen their doors. Chamber founder Louis Rosmy says it's a way to celebrate community members who are holding on through crippling financial times. Tell me about these red carpet reopenings that you've been doing for members as they open their doors once again.
Hey, Julie, first of all, thank you for having me. I want to tell you that these red carpet grand opening that we've been doing is a way for us to tell the community not only that we open for business, but we want to bring them back in style. And those that choose to be a member of the United Haitian American Chamber of Commerce of Southwest Florida, we wanted to send out a message that once you're a member, we treat you special that you are, like the special person that you are, the efforts that you're making. We wanted to recognize that. And I think it takes something special for someone to see during this pandemic, and you realize that you were not just a business owner to make money, but you also were serving the community. And we wanted to celebrate that. This is why the United Chamber made the decision to do it in a red carpet style. And we're welcoming any new members that would like to join us. Would be doing the same for them.
I just love the idea of having a big red carpet grand reopening. If you're going to open your doors, do it in style. And I think it's a great idea that you're doing that. Have people really loved it? Have they shown up and enjoyed themselves at these things?
Oh yeah, people love it. And not only they like the red carpet style, they also figured out for us to be a new chamber and being so creative, and they really want to be a part of this. And we're inviting everyone in the community that would like to come and network with the United Haitian American community. We're open to do business with everyone. So please join us. You can see more details about our chamber under myhaitianchamber.com.
myhaitianchamber.com?
Correct.
All right.
Julie, we have some poll results in.
Oh, I'm jumping the gun. I'm so excited to hear.
Let's find out what customers think of mask wearing policies at retailers and service providers.
This is a hot topic. This is the answer to our third poll question. Does a business's policy on mask wearing for employees and customers influence your decision to shop there in person? A pretty big majority there is saying yes. We got 88 saying yes, and 12% say that doesn't have any impact on their decision whether or not to shop there.
Depending on how things go, it could be 100% soon if there's any kind of mandatory
mask. There's not a whole lot mandatory right now, but those numbers do keep going up. So,
one of the things we keep hearing is that businesses that are nimble are having the best chance at survival through this. How about you? Let's find out in our next poll question.
What we'd like to know is if you've had to reinvent your career, your business, or yourself as a result of coronavirus. Let us know at menti.com, MENTI.com. Just punch in that code 544602. Is there a silver lining with this pandemic when it comes to the future of small business in Southwest Florida? Well, maybe there is. Mark spoke to Jason Teeters, the Southwest Florida Program Manager for Second Muse, and Caleb McPherson. He's the CEO for Narrative Coffee Roasters, which just last month opened its first brick-and-mortar cafe in North Naples. They are both optimistic about the innovative pivots that are being made and the opportunities that are opening up for existing and future businesses.
Hi, guys. How you doing today?
Doing well.
Doing excellent.
Yeah, I'm really happy that you could join us for this town hall. And I want to start with Jason and just have you kind of talk us through a little bit what you do for your company, especially here in Southwest Florida, for businesses that are up and running and for potentially future businesses.
Yeah, so Second Muse really focuses on economic development and usually trying to find ways to provide support and access to typically underrepresented or often overlooked assets in the community. And that gives us opportunities to partner with some really cool organizations and companies and nonprofits. And so here in Southwest Florida, we've had the opportunity to partner with Southwest Florida Community Foundation, and we're really looking at economic development through the lens of entrepreneurship development. We believe that economic development can really shift in a community like Southwest Florida.
I noticed on your website the reference to a 21st century economy. What can you define what that is?
Yeah, so at Second Muse, one of the things that we say, we don't really have a mission statement. We have an ambition statement that says that business in the 21st century can be done without causing harm to people, community, or environment. So what we believe the 21st century looks like is this opportunity of equability, being equitable and have access for all. And so we see that a lot through inclusion, collaboration, and support with each other.
And we were just talking a few minutes ago, Caleb, but you just opened your first brick and mortar cafe down in North Naples. And what a time to do that.
Yeah, there's never a convenient time to start a business, in my opinion. There's always a reason why not to. We'd had a wholesale operation up in Cape Coral. We've been operating for 3 years. We've been itching to get into a spot. And we about 13 months ago got the opportunity here in North Naples for a location. And our heart as a company has always been to create space in our community for people to come and get together and share stories and share life, really. And so, I mean, that need hasn't really changed just because there's been, a global pandemic. How we do it has changed drastically. But yeah, I mean, they're really, in my opinion, never a good time to start a business. There's always reasons why you shouldn't. And so it's no different here. It's been tough for sure, but there's been a lot of adjustments we've made to keep our staff and our customers safe and happy.
I mean, is there one particular example you can talk about in terms of how you have pivoted to adapt right now? I mean, maybe pre-coronavirus, what you were planning, and post-coronavirus, what's happened to have you kind of adapt?
Yeah, I would say the biggest adaptation we've made came pre-opening the store, actually. Again, we were predominantly wholesale. About 95% of our business was all wholesale. When COVID hit, almost all of our wholesale customers just shut down. So we went from, our regular income to about 10% of that in a matter of a week. And we had, thankfully we're small. And so we had the opportunity to pivot in a big way. And that started through a home delivery service that we still offered. We basically told people, we understand you don't want to go out and risk it. So we'll gladly take the safety precautions, i.e. mask and gloves and sanitizer, and we'll come to you. And we ended up doing deliveries to Southwest Florida, and it just picked up really, really quick. And then that honestly just was a natural transition of going from wholesale direct to someone's home in a retail environment to then actually launch our shop. So it kind of was, for a business standpoint for us, it was the perfect storm to force us to go direct to our consumer.
I like that perfect storm reference. That is appropriate for right now. And similar for you, Jason. I mean, this is now 4 months of coronavirus. Hard to believe. How about your field of work, the changes you've experienced in your business because of the pandemic? Has there been an uptick in people looking to jump into the entrepreneurial world? Is this sort of sparked some people to maybe make that jump?
Yeah, I think, for us, we've been supporting entrepreneurs in the local community. And I believe a lot of what you heard from Caleb were a lot of the things that we were really focused on. And so we really looked at how can a company be resilient and adaptable in times like this. And a couple of things that really emerged was this sort of clarity about what it takes to actually run your business. And then this sort of second piece that was, how can I provide value to my clients? And I think with this pandemic, one thing that it really allowed for a lot of our entrepreneurs that we were working with to get really clear about how they can provide value and what that looks like, and then finding avenues to do that. And I think Caleb is one example of how in those times entrepreneurs are sort of focus on their key people and then figure out what they could do to support them.
Caleb, I noticed on the website for Narrative Coffee Roasters, you have a list of partners that you are connected with and interact with. It's a pretty long list, and they're based in our region. How are things going for your partners right now? What are you hearing from them about their businesses?
We've had a number of partners, like many other businesses, that have just closed down. They've said enough is enough, and they just either closed down permanently or they've closed down for the time being. People who are kind of sick and tired of being at home, and obviously understand the risks and are taking the precautions necessary to do so safely. But we're seeing people come out more and more and more. So again, a couple actually have had to close the doors for good, but most are back open now. And the numbers don't lie. I mean, the size of orders are quite small. No one's popping busy right now. Everyone's still feeling it, but most of them are pretty hopeful for the future.
One of our columnists, he covers growth and development here. His name is Phil Fernandez. He writes for the Naples Daily News and the News Press. He wrote today actually a column that said, in it, suddenly the creative local little guy or gal entrepreneurs may have a shot in all this. Perhaps an unimpeded lane to develop and grow their freshly nimble business as the Goliaths come tumbling down. Yes, the pandemic is oddly creating a little bit of opportunity. You just have to find the right path. Is it that easy?
I think like most things, it requires hard work and dedication, right? But I do believe the beauty about an entrepreneur, and I think any business, not every entrepreneur, larger businesses as well, the ability to adapt and be nimble comes from the top. And so we've seen a lot of creative businesses do things, like I said before, to respond, even in times when it seemed like almost impossible. I think a great example was a company in Chicago. There was a restaurant that does like these premier steaks. They started allowing people to order steaks from them, and then they provided a cooking class to teach them how they cook their classic steak. So I think there's ways with that being nimble and adaptable to be able to focus on the needs of the community. And if you provide a resource for them, I think they'll take it.
Caleb, you get the last word.
Yeah, I mean, in some ways, I think it is that simple. I really do. It just takes knowing who your audience is and being unashamed about who you are. The reality is that if you're a small business owner, you don't want everyone. Not everyone's your client. I think so many people miss that mark where they think they have to be everything for everybody. And the reality is they become nobody or nothing, for nobody. And so, man, it's really about just knowing who your audience is and being unashamed in who you are and going after them. And, not everyone's going to be for you. Coronavirus didn't change that. And as a company, we know that we're not for everybody. So figuring that out, knowing that, and then living it out, as Jason said, with hard work and dedication. It's going to be a lot of late nights, a lot of early mornings, a lot of missed holidays and all that if you're a business owner. But at the end of the day, that's what it kind of takes to see if you're cut from the cloth.
Well, you guys are awesome. I know you're very busy, and we can't thank you enough for taking time out today to talk to us about the small business and the coronavirus. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mark also sat down with Janeth Castrojohn. She is a communications manager with CareerSource Southwest Florida. Janeth and the team at CareerSource have been working hard to help suddenly unemployed people find work and understand their best options for returning to the workforce, including making a career change if necessary.
So you haven't been too busy lately, have you?
Extremely busy, believe it or not.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Obviously, the coronavirus has really impacted Southwest Florida, and unfortunately, a lot of people and their jobs. Can you tell us, has there been one area in particular where you're seeing people come to the office that have been put out of a job, that are looking for a job?
Well, I got to tell you that there has been some major industries affected by the COVID-19. Besides leisure and hospitality, retail has also been affected. We've seen the closing of bars, the reduction of the restaurants inside capacity of 50%, and any job related in retail that's close contact with the clients has been affected. Also, interestingly enough, the medical industry, something that is kind of surprising sometimes to think about, but thank you to all the stellar front staff, medical staff that are actually our heroes right now. They're doing a magnificent job, but they are reaching exhaustion and they're also exposed. And so there's a concern of exposing their families. Elective surgeries have been canceled. So that's also done a decline on the medical field and the medical industry. However, interestingly enough, construction has been staying pretty stable and strong, which is something very different from the last recession we had in 07 and 08.
What about the opposite end? Where are the jobs right now? Where can people be looking for jobs?
Well, we are starting to see that remote careers are definitely going to take a spike on this new norm and environment. An example of that would be banking centers doing virtual services like virtual teller. These individuals could be in big cities outside the state, but still provide that local service. So we're going to see a lot more of that. We also have clients of ours like Ace Hardware. Customer service representatives are still greatly needed. Lee Health is calling right now for ICU nurses. They're in great need of that demand, particularly here. We also see the construction and trades still going very strong. So there's opportunities there. Cybersecurity, IT jobs. Hey, new norm. Mostly everything going virtual. We need those professionals. And lastly, logistics. I don't know if you've heard about the AIRGLADES International Airport in Hendry County, which has been approved. And very soon, they will be the port that will be receiving it from Miami and then distributing across the United States. So logistics is another great opportunity.
I think our audience will really appreciate that kind of insight right now, especially people who are looking. How about CareerSource as a business? I mean, how have you guys had to pivot? I know we were just talking, you only just opened your doors again a couple of weeks ago. So what changes have you had inside your business?
Well, we actually never stopped serving our clients, but we did have to pivot, as you say, or change our ways. When we decided to close our centers for the walk-in services we provided, it was all with the health and safety in mind for our clients or our staff. So we decided to go virtual, providing virtual appointments with our clients or over the telephone. We also immediately, before the plan was rolled out, part of the plan was We install plexiglass at all the reception areas. We maintain social distancing and signs everywhere. Masks were requested. We even hire interviewers who are at the reception area asking health questions and make sure that we were, safeguarding them as well as our staff. In addition to that, we went virtual appointments. You can request an appointment with us through our website, and we give you about an hour and a half to meet with us or virtually. And in between those appointments, we are disinfecting every area for 30 minutes. Every computer, every station is at least 6 feet apart. So we have really tried to meet the needs of our community, but always with safety in mind. And something very exciting coming up, we're going to have our very first virtual job fair or expo. That's going to be July 30th from 10 to 1. So tune in for more information, because we are here to connect job seekers and employers. We are the bridge in between. Also, our professional career network is going to go completely virtual. So everyone can also learn how to do a resume online, how to interview, salary negotiation, and so much more.
That's really good to hear, especially the job fair. I'm sure you're going to have a lot of people come there. And before we let you go, we got to talk about unemployment. There's been like a tsunami of people that have been unemployed. And I didn't know this, and maybe our audience didn't know, but you do try to help people navigate the Connect benefits system through the state, which we know has been a bumpy ride. I mean, right now, do you see that getting better or worse?
Well, unemployment. Let me be clear about unemployment. We are not the unemployment office. However, we did, as you mentioned earlier, stepped up to help our community late in March to help reset the pins, because people were getting locked out of the Connect system or the unemployment state system itself. So we can provide computer access. So you can request an appointment with us through our website to access the computer so you can go ahead and file your unemployment claim. We can explain to you the process on how it works, filing that claim. We can help you reset the pins if you're locked out of the system, Connect system, but we cannot determine your eligibility for unemployment benefits. We cannot explain the status of the claim or even have access to correct your information on that system. So that's very difficult for us to gauge. So that's what we can and cannot do.
Hey, every little bit helps. We can't thank you enough for being a part of our town hall. That information you provided is super important for our audience. And I know for our live Q&A on Facebook following this broadcast, you'll probably get a lot more questions. So thank you.
It is a pleasure to be part of this. Thank you for having us, and we'll be ready for the Facebook Live.
Julie, the results are in for the final poll question.
Let's take a look and see how everybody answered. We asked, have you had to reinvent your career, your business, or yourself as a result of coronavirus? Almost a 50-50 split. We got 49% saying they did not, 51% saying they did. That's pretty interesting. Those should be some cool stories to hear.
That brings us to the end of our 1-hour broadcast here on WGCU. Now we're going on to Facebook Live with the virtual town hall, where we're asking your questions of many of the people we spoke with tonight.
Just visit one of these Facebook pages, WGCU News Press or Naples Daily News. And if you'd like to submit a question, please do so in the comments section. We'll try our best to get to them all. Thanks for joining us for this broadcast. We'll see you over on Facebook.